Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the original food service equipment repair podcast built by technicians for technicians. Whether you're on the front lines of repair, keeping the kitchen running smoothly, or just passionate about the food service repair industry, this podcast is your go-to source for expert insight, tech tips, and real stories from the field. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. This week, the show is brought to you by TrueTech Tools. Are you looking for top quality HVACR tools? TrueTech Tools is here to help. From instruments to hand tools, in stock and ship fast, they have you covered to get the job done right. Visit TrueTechTools.com. Quality tools, essential support. What's up, everybody? Today, I have very special guests, Matt and Sean. I stumbled across them a few weeks ago on TikTok. They go by HVACR DADS. And I seen them pop up. And then they popped up again. And I started following them. And I was like, they're out there putting out content. They're showing off their work. They're promoting the industry. They're trying to grow it. They have a positive outlook on things. I was like, I got to have these guys on. So fast forward a couple weeks later, and here we are. So what is going on, fellas?
How you doing, man? Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
I'm excited for it. So if you guys do not know, they are brothers and you're twins, correct?
Yes.
We are. Yes.
Nice. So let's talk about how you guys got into the trades. I know you said, you told me you guys were first generation tradesmen. So let's talk about, why did you guys decide to go down this route?
I'll start, I guess. So it really, I feel like a lot of people that I know, kind of attested, they kind of went down the same way. But it was really just born from not knowing what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted consistent income. I didn't really have, I was kind of, shiftless a little bit. I was in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it wasn't very motivating. So I was like, hey, maybe I should look into trade school. And our dad, who, he was, very white collar. He was in the pharmaceutical industry. He encouraged it very much. He's a very old school guy, even though he was very white collar, he did almost everything himself,
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, hey, that's great. You go to trade school, I'll help you out. And, so I did. And, I dragged my best friend there. We have another buddy. I dragged him out there. We went together, and, 2 weeks in, I was like, this is amazing. Because I picked HVAC because it was the only trade that I knew absolutely nothing about.
Nice.
And I was like, I know I don't want to work on cars. I know I don't want to be a pharmacist. I know I don't want to cut hair. So I was like, what do I want to do? So HVAC and refrigeration. And again, 2 weeks in, they got us brazen pipe. We're learning about, thermodynamics and all that, and just the science of it. And I was like, this is so interesting. Like, I always loved science. I always loved that stuff. And, we got into the field, and Matt came in shortly after.
Yeah, I came in a year or so later. I know you guys. Once you guys got out of trade school, I think it was so funny because I think almost immediately you guys started doing side work, like probably way too soon out of school.
Way too soon.
Way too soon. And I just remember. You and Davey, you guys would be like, yo, come over here. We got to look at this. They got a bad blower. And I don't know. And I remember eventually when you guys, we did some we ended up doing some of our family members' systems, like just installing new systems. We ended up doing our dad's system, our mom and dad's system. And at that point, I was attending Rowan University. Like, I was still in college, and that, I was effectively just, moving their garbage around. Like, I didn't know, but I knew that I was having a lot of fun with my friends, and I was going, and I was in college. Like, I just, switched my majors a couple times, but at that point I was in for like criminal justice. And just because I was just looking to help people, like, in some capacity, because I didn't really have a direction either, but I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't want to do trade, whatever. And I just remember like, I don't remember if it was the install we did for Dad or the one we did for one of our aunts or uncles, but I remember like doing that and having fun with you guys, and then sitting in my law class, and I was just like, this sucks. And I don't want to do this. And at the end of the semester, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to take some time to think. I took a few months. Me and my wife, we'd been married a little bit at that point, and we found out she was pregnant. And while I was in classes, I was working at a warehouse job, doing like 50 hours a week or so, real early days. And I remember looking at that because I'd been there a while, and unbelievably, I'd almost capped out in the pay department. And I was looking at my manager, and I was like my immediate manager, not like the big boys, but my immediate manager in my department. I was like, he doesn't make that much more than me, and he's been here like 20 years. And I was like, I'm about to have a baby. Like, I'm looking at, you and Dave look like you're having such a good time. And I mean, you guys, had just basically just started. And I was like, I need something sustainable. So I started, you guys went to Penco. I just took a 9-month night, like three nights a week course at GCIT, down here in Sewell. And, after that, like, got my EPA, and a month before class was over, I had a job, and that was it.
Yeah, that's a great story. I mean, people sometimes think I'm anti-college. I'm like, no, I'm not anti-college. Just know what you want to go for. I mean, that's a lot of money for guys and women to just go and sit through and party and not do anything, and they come out with all this debt, and they're like, what do I do with my life now?
Yeah.
And then, a lot of them end up in the trades. Like, man, you could have done this 4 years ago, and you'd be making a lot more money, and you wouldn't have all that debt. And like I said, I'm not against college. Just know what you want to do and have a plan of your life. If you're going to go to college, because that's a lot of money, man. I've got 2 sons. They both work with me. I've got a daughter. She did some schooling. But, I mean, I'm not against it, but just be prepared, because it's a chunk of money that you're going to be paying off for a long time.
Yeah.
100%. It should definitely be a means to an end. Like anything that you want to do, that you do whatever you need to do to get to that career path. If it demands college, do college. If you need trade school, do trade school. You need to go to the military, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, I always tell people, it's like, if you think you want to try something in trades, I said, find a shop. A lot of shops will hire you on as a helper with no experience or nothing else, and you can see if you like it. If you don't like it, hey, no harm, no foul. Go find something else. It's a try before you buy mentality, I think. And you may never find something you like. I mean, I don't know. Everybody's different, but it worked out pretty good for me. And I bounced through a couple different trades. I started off as an electrician before I got into this, and I knew about this industry, but I didn't really know about it. And then once I got into it, I fell in love with it. It's cool. It's always something different. It's always fun. So the trades probably saved my life, because I would have been doing, if I was in a factory, I could not do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it gets to be. There's definitely a mentality, and you can tell there's guys who've checked out. You know what I mean? I think that's everywhere.
Oh yeah,
but it's hard. It's hard to not get burned out sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, but I think that like, you can either resign yourself to something, or you could try to better yourself. And like, I think that no matter where you are, if you're striving to be better, like warehouse or not, whatever it is, it could be any job, as long as you're striving to get better and approach it with an attitude of humility and try to shoot for that. I think that no matter what, your work ethic is going to shine through and help you. You know what I mean? And it just depends on what you're willing and able to put your energy towards, especially like to what end, like you're saying, dude.
Yeah, I see guys all the time. I tell people, like, oh, how much money can you make? I'm like, look, your money you make is directly related to what you put into it. You can be an average tech, and you only do the training they give you. You don't go out on your own to seek knowledge or anything, and you can make decent money. But if you want to be the top tier technician, you want to make that money, you need to do it on your own. You're going to have to want to do it, and no one's going to do it for you. Just get out there and do it. And it's worked out pretty well for me, and I see a lot of other guys works out well for too. And you guys are out there sharing that information, so I think you guys are probably in that same boat where you want to take it to the next level. You want to be that the best version of yourself in your job. So I'm sure you guys are the same exact way. You're learning on your own. You did the trade school. I mean, you're just out there kicking butt. So,
we're definitely trying, for sure. And that's one thing that we love about this trade is, we love teaching it.
Yeah.
We love, showing younger guys, especially guys coming into the trade, and it comes from us just being very excited about this. Because we enjoy it. There's hard days just like everything else. There's hard weeks, there's hard months, but this field, I firmly firmly believe this. This is one of the. I feel like this is one of the fields where it's almost the most imperative. If you don't find a way to love this field, you will not succeed. You will not be anything than above average. And I love this field too, not just because our company's been gracious enough to allow us to train guys, but I feel like every single day I'm finding something that I didn't know, and I've been doing this almost 11 years, and it's truly amazing. I feel like after all this time and all of the service calls we've run, I feel like I've only scratched the surface, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a great industry where you can learn something new every single day. So we got Jason joining us. He come in a few minutes late. Thanks for joining us, Jason. What's up,
My
buddy?
apologies, fellas. Sorry to keep
Hey there,
you waiting.
Jason.
How you doing,
What's going
Jason?
on, guys? I'm doing well.
We've got Matt and Sean, twin brothers from the South New Jersey area, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Where are you from, Jason?
I'm raised down here in Florida. I was born in Philly. Yeah, I was born in Philly, but I moved down here in the first grade. Raised in Southwest Florida, and left out of Southwest Florida and around 30 other coasts. Wife was in the service, and that's where I ended up in tech school. And then I ended up back here in Florida in the Tampa market for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. Do you do primarily commercial work or kitchen work as well, or?
In a former life, but yeah, at the last 10 years, I worked at a service company that I did hot side, cold side, electrical, everything, facilities inside out, whatnot. But in regards to cooking equipment, I did steam, electric, and gas, warewash, walk-in refrigerations, reach-ins, ice cream machines, beverage machines, soda machines, electrical work, painting, everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now he's on the facility side. So
now I'm a facilities manager. So I took the last 10 years of in the field, 18 years of in hospitality, and I combined those. And now I kind of just chase you guys around, make sure you guys are being honest.
Trust me, we need you. We need you.
Man, I am thanked almost every day when I meet a new tech or I talk to a manager at a service company, and they're like, what kind of history? They're like, thank God there's somebody who has your experience. They're like, I will be reaching out to you. I'm like, you're not even in my market. Well, that's fine. But yeah.
Well, I feel like a lot of facilities managers, and again, it's not a crime, it's just the way that it happens. It's usually just a guy who's kind of mechanically inclined, and he's just, he's been thrown into, I mean, just in my experience, a lot of times they've been thrown into running this facility, like say a lot of nursing homes that we do.
Oh yeah.
And it's just this real nice guy, this poor guy who's just in this situation where everything's falling apart around him, and he's just like, well, I know how to put an outlet in, I can turn a couple of wrenches, so it's always nice when you get a guy like Matt, like Joe Flood, who comes in with all that experience. He's got a ton of experience in HVAC himself, so it's like I can almost just talk shop with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's always super refreshing.
I was at a service company that, on the service side, meeting different RFMs, different facility managers, whether it's a nursing home, rehab, restaurant, school, a lot of these people came up are in that building doing, the operations work. And then they were the most mechanically inclined and the most, like, oh, I can fix that. And then eventually they ended up inheriting that role. And then a lot of instances, it's RFMs who aren't really mechanically inclined. They got their certification in facilities and things like that. So a lot of them have more business sense than technical sense. So it's nice to kind of be in the middle there, because a lot of the RFMs I work around lean on me for the technical aspect, and then I lean on them for knowing the ins and outs of the culture of the business and the operations aspect. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's nice.
So
to know.
Matt, yeah,
go ahead. So it's nice to know that when you have a problem or you send in a work order he works for a big giant chain, but you send in a work order, it's someone reviewing that work order that actually understands what you're doing. But it's also probably some guys that don't know what they're doing, and he's reading this work order like, why are they doing this? This doesn't make sense. So he's probably a great asset for some guys and a really great asset for his employer.
Yeah, I'm a pain in the butt to some because I do scrutinize work orders. I do review them, and if I see, the first week I was here, I got an invoice, a proposal for a replacement of a condenser for an ice machine, and it just said ice machine's bad, needs to replace. And they gave us a quote for however much, tens of thousands of dollars, and so I called them up. I'm like, hey, what's wrong with this ice machine? They're like, it's bad. I'm like, what part? The condenser's bad. I'm like, okay, what part of the condenser is bad? They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like,
it's disobedient.
I'm trying to get you to explain to me what you're talking about. And, and they're like, oh, well, the compressor is bad. I'm like, okay, it's shorted. And they're just like, I'm like, all right, run me through what happened here.
Yeah.
Or get me on the phone with the technician, just to find out that compressor wasn't bad. It was just like a filter that was stuck up that kept making it OL out and whatnot. And, we ended up just going ahead because it was warranty. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stop these guys. They already put the time in. It's warranty. They're going to cover it. And Lord knows them running this thing and not catching that it has a restriction, what it did to the compressor, just to have them change the filter dryer and change everything out. And then that compressor is going to crap out anyway. It's in warranty. Just get rid of it. But I had a good conversation with them and just explained how I want things explained. I said, hey, if you explained as a technician, I need to understand the sequence of operations. I mean, as a facilities manager, I'm driving everyone nuts because I need to know why, instead of, it's just like, well, why? How did we get to that? What came to the, and I'm just explaining what the expectations are. And I'm just like, hey, I want to approve these proposals, but you're going to have to convince me that it's, I have plenty of other stuff to do, but I do want to make sure that, we're not just parts changers. And unfortunately, I've had to use that phrase, pretty directly with some of them saying, hey man, you're just coming here changing stuff and you're not identifying the underlying issues. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think we've been extremely blessed in the place where we work, where there's people like semi in an overseeing position where they, work orders are read and, scrutinized is a strong word, but it's a good word, I think, because it implies that we're cutting through the fat to get to the meat. And I think that, just to use myself as an example, like about this time last year, I was working on a piece of refrigeration equipment that that I thought I was familiar with, but but I remember, I encountered, where I pressurized this system. I performed a repair. I remember I replaced it was a suction line accumulator and heat exchanger. And I found a major leak coming out of it. I was like, oh, jackpot, this is it. This is why it's low. It was bubbling like crazy, Got the thing, replaced it. It sat under pressure for like maybe an hour. I'm like, it didn't drop. Let's go. Put it under evacuation, and didn't get a great vacuum. The long and short of it was I ended up spending about 7 days chasing moisture in this thing. And they sent a senior, like a guy who'd been doing this a whole lot longer than me to come out and assist me like 3 days in. And we're just like, we're sitting there scratching our heads. Like I think we went through like a couple EPR valves. We went through like a solenoid or two. Like it was ridiculous. Like stuff was getting rusty. And we're like, what is going on? And what was happening was, like, we found out midway through the week, we're evacuating this thing. We're changing oil. It's looking like milk every 10 minutes. We're like, what is going on?
Damn.
And it turned out that I guess there was like the liquid line was submerged underground, going through a chase underground. And what happened was when I put it in a vacuum, it was so brittle, it like perforated and sucked in water right into the accumulator. And what was happening was when the pressure would drop down below freezing, it would freeze the water and pump the system down. And I was floored. I was like, what in the world? And you want to talk, like, one of my other coworkers, I mean, this had me sweating. One of my other coworkers gave me some really good advice, and he was saying, you give yourself your 20 minutes of shame, and then you move on, because you're never going to do it again. And I sat down with one of the overseers, with one of our managers, and again, we're very blessed. We have people who care to see the people at our company improve, and I'm happy to be a part of that. And I know one of the things he said to me was, hey, next time you're in this position where you think it might be this, you already know like what can happen. Maybe start here instead of calling it this soon. You know what I mean? Maybe check this first, check this. And I was just, I was grateful. And it's one of those things you just, you laugh about it now, but you never forget that kind of stuff. It was
I always say that embarrassment. For me, when I first got out of tech school, I started at Steak and Shake as a technician for 2 years, 8 months, and that's where I cut my teeth. And we talked about it on the show between Pat and Rich and I about communication and how much grace the customer will give you if you just communicate and you just fess up and be like, I thought I had this, I didn't, and that 20 minutes of shame, that will definitely teach you. If it is an embarrassment, it's like zapping the crap out of yourself or burning yourself, so those things are always teachable moments. And I've had some instances where I've questioned a technician or a manager and gone through it and had them explain, and they're like, this is what happened. And me looking at it, and I just look at what I went through, just like what you're going through, and I'm just like, okay, I can see where you thought this was that. No worries, let's keep moving forward. I appreciate you being candid and honest with me and whatnot, but communication will do it for you. Everyone's willing to show grace, because I'd rather show grace to someone who's humble like yourself and willing to fess up, and at least you tried. I've been there where it's like, eureka, I got this, and I feel so confident in it. And then this next thing, this thing isn't pulling down very well. It's not pulling down very well. And it's just like,
what's going on?
I'm over there. I'm there overnight by myself staring at this thing. I've never stared at anything as long as I've stared at a micron gauge and, checking components, going through like 2 bottles of leak search and craziness, man. Been there, done that. And, 20 minutes of shame, just move forward. You won't forget it and whatnot. So you're on the right path, brother.
Yeah, thanks. And here we are a year later, and it's just, you have weeks where you feel like you're killing it, and then you get a couple days where you're like this is like, I've had a couple days where I'm just hitting my head against the wall, I think that's a universal feeling though. You know what I mean? And I think it's about how you approach it and really how you deal with things that are hard. You know what I mean? If you're willing to get into it and do the things that are difficult and get through, I think that ultimately you improve. And I tell the young guys we bring in that we get to train, really where you try to take advantage of the time you have riding with an older technician who's been doing this for a while and can point you in the right direction, give you advice, give you the basics, help you form good habits. But in the end, it's that first week on call in July where you're just like sitting by yourself. And you either fix this thing or you're sleeping there.
No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. How many, I'm just curious, what did you guys do? You pull that line set out from underground and run a new one, or what'd you do?
Yeah, they had a crew come in and fish a new line set through. They have a procedure for it.
I just had to know what happened there.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was pretty, like the solution was pretty standard. This isn't something that hasn't happened before, but to me, it was just an odd situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, going forward, you suspect a leak like that, I got a better leak sniffer than I did at that point, at that point, if you're detecting anything like that, I know to be a little bit more thorough, I can isolate lines. You can put access fittings on and check parts individually. Like there's lots of things I could have done, you know what I mean? Not thinking, I'm like, crap, this thing's leaking like crazy. We got an old Russell pack on the roof. Like this thing, this is 100% where the leak is, no, like there's a lot, man. It's, just because you find one doesn't mean it's the only one,
That's funny you say that, because I went through the same thing where all these techs were trying to figure out why this walk-in was not holding. And the techs would check the evaporator. They'd go up on the roof, check the condenser, back and forth. And then I got it, and I'm just determined to figure it out. And I'm going through the same thing. And I'm like, well, I'm going to pull it down again. I'm going to pull everything out just to find out that above the drop ceiling, the line set sitting on the metal rafters, it rubbed. But nobody ever went up there. And after this was like 3 days. This was like 3 days of me pulling my hair. And when I finally figured out, I've never, ever forgot that situation. And I tell people when I see that there's multiple leak searches, and I'm just like, well, did anyone check the line set going above the drop ceiling from the walk-in? Because it goes in the building if it's an exterior walk-in box, right? So it's got to get into the building and up onto the roof. And ever since that situation happened, it's like, I go look for that, just like you had that weird situation, you're not going to forget it. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It'll get you one time and you'll always remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Sean, you got any horror stories or something that kicked your butt that you
dude, look, I mean, here, I was gonna say, I'll give you a couple of quick ones. First one, Texas Roadhouse. First year in commercial, because we cut our teeth in residential.
Mhm.
We did a lot of oil, a lot of boilers, lot of houses, man. Again, crazy stories there too. First summer in residential, I think I'd just been on call. I was coming off my first like real crazy on call week. It was something like 85 hours, and we've beaten that by a lot now. But we came off a really heavy on call week. It was very hot. I was doing a job at a Texas Roadhouse. I go to take a panel off the big RTU they got there, big rooftop unit, and I don't know if you've seen some of these train condensers, but they have like the panels covering the coil, and then they have the brackets on the back. The hail guards, that's it.
Yep.
And me not knowing, I unscrewed the hail guards from the panel, pulled it off, and one of the hail guards falls right forward, right through the microchannel coil.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you pierced the Duralast roof. That's even worse, man.
Well, that would yeah, that would have sucked. That would have sucked.
Microchannel, you said, yeah.
Oh, dude, it's literally just nicked it. Just dude,
the
my
big
heart
unit in the middle of the roof in front of that whole line of exhaust. The big one in the middle. They have trains all the way around, but there's a big one. That's not even an AC unit. That's a fresh air. That's a conditioned fresh air.
Yeah,
unit, but there's no pulling, right?
No, so this one was a two-stage. It was just a two-stage AC. It was just a real big one.
Okay.
And I know that it served the back office and half of the kitchen. It was a strange orientation.
Okay.
But it was stage one. Just, and I'm sitting there just like panicking because it was my first summer at this job. I'm like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah.
I would panic.
And I'm like, I'm trying to fix it. I'm making it worse. So it was just a very difficult call to the boss. I was like, hey, I messed up. And he was so gracious, Rob. He was like, he was silent, dead silent for like 5 seconds. And he goes, you all right, man? He goes, you all right? I was like, yeah. He's like, stuff happens. He goes, stuff happens. We'll get it fixed, and we were able to, obviously the second stage still worked, it ended up working out. But yeah, it was a hard lesson. It was a dumb lesson. You know what I mean? Another horror story. If you actually scroll down to our first video, which isn't that far, but if you scroll down to the first video we did, it's just like a bunch of sequence. It's like a small sequence of like little clips of a boiler that was just dumping water. That was at a housing authority. I got there around 2:00 in the afternoon. The complaint was relief valves bad. Sure, we get there, and relief valves dumping water, steam's filling the room. I'm like, oh man, it's got incomplete expansion. This boiler hasn't been maintenance in 7 years. It serves a whole. That boiler serves a whole.
It's like 10
a whole
units,
building. Yeah, it's like 10 different
units.
units, and every unit has its own valve. So I go through. The expansion tank's blown out. I replace the expansion tank. The auto feed's stuck open. Replace the auto feed. The backflow preventer. All of that. There's no isolation valves on this thing, so I just drain the entire system. I'm cutting in valves, putting in purge valves, putting in isolation valves. I'm like, I have to do all this to even make this serviceable after.
Yeah.
So I'm going above and beyond. I'm doing all this, putting it all together. I go to turn it on, and it's the first, because it does their hot water too, so the thing never shut off. It was like it must have been the first time it shut off in years. So I'd go to turn it back on, and the integrated control won't come on. It's clicking, it's tap dancing, like tick, tick, tick. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. It's 9:00 at night. I call the supply house. They actually I get them to open up for me because it's after hours. They had one in stock. Went there, came back, put it in. Boiler starts running, right?
Okay.
And then I start seeing smoke and steam rising from the bottom of the boiler. And I go and look underneath, and the entire boiler is cracked. Cracked, like just like exhausting into the space.
Great.
And I'm just like, I've been here for 11 hours at this point.
No,
you know what I mean?
New one.
Yeah, and they need a new one. It's like I would have thought. And again, yeah. Well, and the guy who came and replaced the boiler, he was like, "Yeah, you replaced the auto feed, the backflow, everything's done."
You did all the near boiler piping. So it's like
everything was done, man. Yeah.
You did all the helper work first, huh?
So
That's great.
Sean, you've been doing it roughly a year longer than Matt, correct?
Yeah, just about.
So, I mean, how long have you been doing it in total?
So we're very close to 11 years.
Nice. So, have you guys pretty much always worked for the same place, or you guys
No.
work places?
So
No.
that's what's funny. You and our dear friend Dave, who we've known since like the 6th grade. He's who Shawnee Boy went to trade school with, and they kind of worked together for a while, and then they went to. I know Dave went to the company in Pennsylvania, and that I started at a small company in New Jersey, which was a good time, and then I moved to that company with our friend. So we kind of like like juggled our friend, who we work with. And we didn't work together till I think like 3 companies later at that company in Pennsauken.
Mm-hmm.
And so
we worked together there for a good amount of time.
Yeah. So, but the first like couple years of doing this, I had a weird pride thing where I was like, these guys did it like by themselves. I got to make my way. And like, like I just remember starting out, and there's like that different kind of difficult where like you've never held a wrench in your hand except to like play with it. You know what I mean? And life comes at you.
Real quick, let me just cut in.
Yeah.
I should also contextualize this statement by the fact that we had never had any mechanical training, no mechanical experience whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I had never held a screwdriver before I went to trade school. Continue.
Yeah, no, no, seriously. So it gives it validates that, because I know when I first started doing installs, like that's where they put me as an install helper. If you're lucky enough to get a good guy who can teach you, great. If not, they kind of resent you for being there, because it's like you're just holding up space. You're slow. Yeah. So I always tried to be the guy that would be the first one in in the crawl space and the last one out, because I was like, I don't know anything. I know I don't, and I'm gonna work like I want to. And so I remember. And like I said, the guy at that point, they ended up hiring a nicer installer later he was much nicer. But the guy who was there initially, he didn't really care for me. And I tried to be kind to him. And but at the end, I kind of realized, I'm like, if I want to know things, I have to treat this like a tool and take the knowledge that I need. So I got quick at doing the outdoor unit. And then I made it a mission to come inside and be like, can you show me how to do the coil? Can you show me, or the evac? Can you show me how to do the furnace? Like, when you say flue, what's a flue? How do you make a plenum? You know what I mean? And that kind of like, it worked towards there, and it was quite a process, and it spanned a couple different companies, working for guys who I know, at least at the beginning, until I became better, I think, would have rather me not be there, but I think by the end probably would begrudgingly admit that they did enjoy having me there by the end, and then from there I was like, I kind of want to do service. So that's where I wanted to end up anyway.
I'm sure there was some entertainment value for them as well.
I've noticed that, like, it seems like everybody in the residential side starts off as like an install helper, and it's like, do that. It's just like, okay, if he can get past this, he'll work out. Is that like the test or what? I'm not sure.
I feel like with residential companies, at least with most of them, not the one you and I ended residential with. I think that was a little bit more fly, like whatever made sense for them at the time. But I think in general, most HVAC companies, if you come in, they use that as a way to be like, oh, here's how I use channel locks. Here's how you see these systems going in, and through that, you kind of get a general understanding, at least on a rudimentary level. Not the science, like, because, you can teach a lot of people how to slam stuff together. But you get like some context on where stuff should go and what it's doing, at least. And it's brand new. So it's like better than walking up on something that's been there for 35 years. You know what I mean? Like you get in service. I think that's
we benefit from it too. We benefit from it too, because, we gained brazing skills. We gained, really construction skills. And Matt was in install for a good bit longer than I was. My first year was in install, and then most of the installs I did after that were on the side, and we did a lot. We did a lot of installs on the side for years and years. But after about a year, I was doing service for Ecolab for about a year. And again, I was kind of just trying to go where I wasn't sure where I fit yet. I wasn't sure what I wanted. So I spent time at Ecolab. I learned a lot about troubleshooting low voltage electrical. My goodness. my goodness. And I got very comfortable in like a kitchen setting. And then after that, I went back to residential. I did residential service for a while. Got pretty decent at troubleshooting. I moved to a company, again, the one in Pennsauken that you and I, Matt, both ended up at with Dave. And we spent a good amount of time there just learning about boilers, learning about
that was
oil, combustion, all that.
They were primarily oil heat, and that ended up being really fun. I really enjoyed working on oil and getting comfortable with oil. And I remember I ended up going there because one of the guys I was working at in the company in Pennsylvania he'd been at this company for like almost 30 years. And he was like, I'm ready to go somewhere else. There's a lot of broken promises, blah, 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 and he was a lifer. Like he had been there his entire career just about. And he was like, I'm moving to this company in Pennsauken. If you want to learn oil, I will teach you. And he left. And I was like, I'm going. And because it was so different, I was like, and everyone I know even like people I talk to now, it's like, oh, oil's dying out. It's this, it's that. It's like, it may be, you know what I mean? We're seeing more and more heat pumps. We're seeing more and more high efficiency stuff. A lot more, certainly gas is like people like to pretend gas is going away. It's not going away, but there's so many places, at least in New Jersey and that I've seen in Pennsylvania, it's going to be a long time before they get gas out there. And there's like even places up in Trenton, like you got oil fired steam boilers in residential homes up in Trenton. Like we put in a couple up there, like brand new ones. It's crazy, but it's like, you wouldn't think that, but you get these like, literally like, you get a Beckett burner on a brand new, one pipe steam system. It's like, this is not something you usually see, but it's very common up in the old parts. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, I always notice that a lot of people online on Instagram or TikTok or whatever in the Northeast, they're always working on oil stuff and boilers. I'm like, and I've never seen anything oil here. I've seen some oil tanks drive around in the country. You'll see a tank like, oh, that's an oil tank. You know what it is. But I've never seen anybody around here working on them. Now, there is a few houses that have boilers. My uncle's house actually has a boiler system. But yeah, it's not real big around here. And it's always pretty interesting to see because I don't see it. So you see the guy with oil systems, like, man, that has to be a nightmare to work on.
It can be. I mean, if it's not maintained, it's the same as anything. If it's not maintained, you get it's all sooted up. It's nasty. It's just a dirty job, is all it is. But a therm is a therm. Combustion follows the same rules, no matter what it is. And
it's literally the same sequence of operations as gas. And it actually made us. And I said this before. I think I said it in a post we made, but in the way that refrigeration made us better air conditioning technicians, in the same way oil made us better just in general with our understanding of combustion, heating, all of that, heat transfer, all of it. It's the same theories applied slightly different, and it gives different context to things that we're already working on. So it just opens your mind a little bit more. You can work on different things and almost see the same thing somewhere else. See something that you're familiar with and just kind of put it and apply it to that same situation.
Yeah, like vacuum pressure, you know what I mean? Like, or you're measuring inches of vacuum versus like pump pressure, you know what I mean? It's like, it's the same, you're using the same measurements, and it's like, oh, well, now we're using it for, intake and output of fuel, So it's just, it's funny how this trade kind of repeats itself, and you just see it, the same things kind of repeated, especially with things like airflow and heat transfer and things like that.
That's cool. So you guys talked about, your desire to teach and train, and I've noticed that in your TikToks and stuff. What made you guys, start up the TikTok channel? Just trying to share what you guys work on, or just trying to show off, what you do, or how'd that come about?
So what's the question for you?
Yeah. So social media in general is so far outside my comfort zone. It is, I've never been one to like put myself or Matt or anybody out there like that. I keep my, my personal life very private. My personal Instagram's private. It only to, I've always been very conservative that way. And, what it really comes down to, I was sick of my Instagram username.
Yeah.
And I was like,
What was
that's it. It was something. It was like something goofy, sub cool boogaloo, something like that. And it was funny. Like I loved it, but
I think
That's
you should
awesome.
switch it back. I think that was the best.
I know, but I had it for years, and I was like, I'm 31. I need to do something. You know what I mean? My kids are like I got my kids on here. It's like my kids are going to see this Instagram one day. It's like, Dad, sub cool boogaloo, like do something, So I was like, what's cool? What do I do? Like, what about me? I'm a dad. I have 3 girls. I have a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. 3 girls. I'm a dad,
Oh.
and I do HVAC and refrigeration. I'm like, oh, HVACR dad. Oh my gosh, it's not taken. How did no one take that? Just HVACR _ dads. I was like, or dad, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. I gotta nab that before somebody else does. Blah 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 blah. And I was like, and I made a TikTok at that point because I was like, I'm a caveman. I never even really was on TikTok that much, and I was like, oh, cool, HVAC dads, all that, or HVAC dad, all that. And I was like, you know what? It'd be cool, if somebody, did a social media thing or like posted videos and HVAC dads, and I was like, maybe I could do that. No, I'm not going to do that. And
you texted me,
yeah,
like a week later, and you said, I have a surprise for you. And I said, what is it? And you said, we're going to do HVACR dads. And you need to set, I know you got your phone out taking pictures of the jobs you do. Because, we're very, we try to be very consistent. I take pictures mostly for myself so I don't have to store everything up here.
Yep.
We have a good...
We do. We take a lot of pictures for the job.
Yeah,
every day.
We use a live server for our company, and we make projects. You know what I mean? It's great for history. It's good for accountability, things like that. I'm a big fan of that anyway. Mostly, like I said, for myself. So it's like if I got my phone out taking pictures of the job, what's one sweeping wide shot, and then adding when I get home. You know what I mean? If I can take 10 minutes when I get home to add a voiceover, you know what I mean? So that was kind of the thought behind. So we don't want to. There's that line, I think, too, where we don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean? My primary concern was I was like, I had a few concerns, and I was like, because I went to a tech school for high school, and I took a digital media course. Mm-hmm. So I've always enjoyed editing and filming videos just for fun. And one thing that I said was, I was like, I'd love to do this because I already like to take pictures of the work that I do. I think that it's interesting. I love this field. It's awesome. And my whole thing was, I don't want it to be a burden. I don't want it to be not fun. I don't want it to feel obligatory. I don't want it to take away from my work, my actual work. You know what I mean? I was like, if I can uphold that while doing this, awesome. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. We weren't trying to get big or anything. It was just a way to, because I saw there were young guys online anyway doing this, and I was like, maybe there's a way that we can encourage some of these young guys, and maybe guys who don't know what they want to do with their careers. Maybe we can inspire somebody who's like, hey, maybe I'm thinking about getting into the trades. What do I want to do? And it's like, and maybe a lot of these young guys have kids, and I'm like, you could, a lot of us are dads. We take a lot of pride in that. Our whole world is what do we even do this for? Yeah. Not just because we love it. You know what I mean? We love this field, but if money was no object, would we still continue to do this? You know what I mean? We love this field, but we love this field because we love our kids, right? Yeah.
And a lot of guys who are looking for careers, a lot of guys who are looking for, something to do in life and a way to provide for their children, why not HVAC?
Yeah.
Why not HVAC? And it's fun. It doesn't have to be anything obligatory. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I went into this manic episode where I was like, I want to make stickers. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm making hats. I'm trying to figure all that stuff out. But again, it's just whatever happens. Yeah.
I think that, I have 3 kids as well. My oldest, my 8-year-old, I have a daughter and 2 sons, and it's just one of those things. Just piggybacking off of what you're saying, I've always said if I can find fulfillment in what I have to do to provide, I can count that as a blessing.
100%.
But the fact that I can, this field isn't going anywhere, and I always tell the guys that the young guys who maybe are starting out, like, they don't have to be, I think a healthy, not fear, but a healthy respect of what you don't know is good. But I think that at the same time, you're not going to get worse at what you do. And this field knows its own. If you are diligent and are willing to put forth the effort, you get out of it what you put into it. And like I said, if you can find fulfillment doing that or even enjoy it, I mean, man, like the long hours, like we all, like when we're out running calls and when we're out, hitting that extra second call or whatever, like we're doing it thinking about, man, I can't wait to come home and see my kids. I'm going to, get home, they're in bed, but you come home and you give them a kiss or whatever. And it's just like, that is what, you're doing it to provide a good life for them. And it's a higher calling than a simple job, no matter what you do. But I think it's great that we can find a fulfillment and even a brotherhood. You know what I mean? Like as dads, we're all HVACR dads. You know what I mean? That's what we are. So
yeah, that's what drew me to it. Was like HVACR dads. Like, yeah, I'm an HVACR dad. Let's go check
yes,
you guys.
Yes, you are, baby.
Yes, you are.
And
like,
I think one of the biggest side effects of showing your work off online is you're going to do better work because you want it to be done right. You want it to look good. So it's just like, hey, I got to take the time to do this right and have some pride in it. If I'm going to show people, I guess got to do it that way. And the byproduct is you just do better work.
Yeah. And what I love about that too, because you're right, you're so right. I love that you can encourage, especially like the little things where it's like like showing you doing a good job cleaning. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize like the time, this is a whole other conversation we can get into, but the time spent really making sure like a system's clean, like that seems like the bare minimum, but oh my goodness, people like giving yourself to stuff like that and just making sure you form good habits early on in like establishing things like that. That's everything. And if that's another byproduct of this, where someone's watching this and it's like, this makes me want to do a good job. You know what I mean? It makes me want to be thorough and maybe like zoom out a bit and think outside the box. Like maybe this isn't the only, I found this one thing, but, like maybe my just an example, maybe my static pressure is a bit high on the supply side. Let's go downstairs and check the ductwork. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Maybe, maybe it's not that it's up and running. It's like, maybe the freeze stats off, like maybe, like just looking into like the little errors and maybe you don't want to follow every rabbit trail you go on. But sometimes it's good to zoom out and maybe eliminate it like a callback later on. You know what I mean? Like just going the extra mile. And if we can encourage people towards that end, I think we've more than succeeded.
Especially with forming a baseline. Especially with forming a baseline before you even start really troubleshooting. Like you say you walk up on a rooftop unit, you slap your gauges on it, it's acting funny, your pressures are all out of whack. You think maybe you got a bad TXV, right? We've all done this. I've done this a shameful amount of times where I'm just like, it's a TXV, gotta be the TXV. TXV's restricted, but you don't go and you're already on the you're already on the phone with the supply house ordering a TXV, and meanwhile you're pulling the filters back and your evaporator's plugged, and you're like, why? Oh, maybe that's why I'm getting liquid flood back. Maybe that's why my TXV's wide open. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's and we're all victim to it, and it's easy, especially when you're tired, stressed, you don't really think about it. And it's easy to fall out of that, hey, like maybe we form a baseline before we start troubleshooting. Maybe we make sure our coils are clean. Maybe we make sure everything's running at or set up as it's supposed to be before we even assume anything, before we presuppose any issue on this unit, just check your little boxes like, hey, is the coil clean? I think so. Is I think so good enough? You know what I mean? Because yeah, exactly. Yeah, we all know that a coil can look clean and be filthy.
Yeah.
I've seen. I was at a golf course, walk-in cooler, thing was not temping at all. I go on the roof, it's short cycling on high head pressure. I'm like, oh my gosh, condenser looked clean as a whistle. I was like, what's your maintenance schedule like? Yeah. I was like, what's your maintenance schedule like? They're like, huh? What? What? I'm like, all right. So ran like 200 feet of hose, and brothers, I had to clean that coil 2 times. Mm-hmm. Filled just black running off the thing, and you never would have known that was the issue.
undiluted blue Calgon. Let's go.
No.
I have a TikTok where I followed up behind somebody at, I think, at an Arby's that couldn't get the cooler to come down the walk-in. And I went up there and it did look clean. And I have a TikTok where I'm just sitting there. You can see my feet and I'm just using water and it's just black coming out of there. And I was just like, ugh, I'm going to have to call this tech and let them know that, we're going to owe these people some money.
Yeah.
I had that same thing a couple weeks ago, man. It was one of those structural concepts case where it has that brush and it brushed itself off. And all it really does is just push that crap further in the coil.
Yo, I hate those so much.
I haven't come across one of those. You guys were talking about it. When I first started at Steak and Shake, there was one night where I got a call, and I think it was early. The sun went down early, and I couldn't figure out why the compressor just kept short cycling. Everything was clean. I cleaned the coil. Everything was good. This unit had a curb adapter that was probably 5 feet tall. You know, so smokes. I'm over there like stacking up cinder blocks from the there's a little dish on the roof for the Muzak dish. So I'm stacking up, trying to see, and I was there all night, and I'm like, man, if I spray water on this coil, it stays running. It doesn't, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I found, I was new, and I'm just like, one of the condenser fans were out. So I didn't do the whole baseline thing, and it took a while for me to figure that out. And so yeah, I get what you're coming from, man. It's you just live and you learn, and you put yourself through the paces, and that lashings you give yourself, you learn better moving forward, man. But you just don't know, you can't call someone out all the time. I think being out on call or just having a late night call with no one willing to pick up their phone or no one to reach out to, you just kind of have to just deal with it. And, and you just sit there and just try to figure out and embrace, like you said, embrace the suck. Embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck.
Yeah. I've been burnt so many times on airflow, and then someone taught me the airflow before charge ABC. So that's like, when I'm teaching refrigeration tech, or when I teach refrigeration at FESA, I'm like, ABCs, like, what's that? Airflow before charge. I said, you give that system
every single time.
You give that system every chance it has on its own before you decide to check charge.
So I don't know if you guys deal with this up north. I deal with it down here when I was a technician. Technicians go out on the summer. Oh, high head pressure. They go through all the paces. They start pulling refrigerant out. I'm not going to say how they were pulling that refrigerant. I'm going to say they were recovering it out. And then come winter time, low. Now they're adding refrigerant. And I'm just like, summertime, did you clean the coil? Did you spray the coil down and check the coil? No. Wintertime, did you spray the coil down and just check the coil? No. So there's this cycle of pulling refrigerant out in the summer and charging it in the winter. And it just made me sick. And I watched a couple seasoned technicians, the same ones that like to purge and not change the filter dryer and all that jazz, do that. And then when I was on my own, early in the game, and it was just like, this isn't helping me. I need to go through the paces and do this right, and whatnot. And those are those sorts of things there that you just learn, because, I went to tech school and it was a lot of hands-on, but, I'll be honest, I'm dyslexic. I have ADD, and I'm just reading stuff over and over again. I struggled, and although I struggled, a lot of that stuff kicked in years later. So, it was back there somewhere, but, fresh out the gate, it's very, how you put it, it's overwhelming, with knowing that there's a bunch of people downstairs, hoping that you save their food, or the guests are burning up inside, people are leaving bad reviews, and you want to take care of your people and whatnot. And the learning curve, I won't forget it. I'm very grateful for what I went through and whatnot, and if I can help a technician, not go through that. And if they're willing to listen, I'm like, hey, you don't want to go that route. Let me just tell you what I went through, so you're not up here, and
at least a nudge in the right direction, so you're not like,
if they're receptive, they're receptive.
Well,
some kids think they know it all.
Yeah. Well, you hope you can spare them, like, hopefully, like, a costly mistake, you know what I mean? You spare them, just because of what it's like, I remember this time I was looking at something kind of similar. Maybe start here instead. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, even if you're not totally, even if you're not dead on, it's like, I mean, I know most people, especially people who are new, do appreciate that wisdom and that guidance, because I mean, I don't want to screw up. I want to be thorough and do a good job. And I'm grateful. Like, even a lot of these new guys that, that we got at our place, like, we got some really good new guys that really want to do well, and it's encouraging. It
makes you want to be better.
Yeah, it does. And that's the other thing too with teaching, man. Like, you sit and you regurgitate information that, like, I thought I forgot, but that's like sitting like on the back shell line of my brain, and I'm regurgitating things, and it's forcing my brain to think about it again. And it's like, I think when you can articulate things well, like things that not only that you like understand to be true, like the sciences of it and the processes and, all the laws of nature, but even like down to like your beliefs and things like that. If you can articulate that well, it makes you better at those things. It makes you more in understanding, and it helps them, and it helps you. So I know for myself, like, teaching,
it reaffirms what you believe anyway, or it reaffirms what you know. It reaffirms that you know those things at all, that you can articulate those things. And by the way, real quick, if I could cut in, yes, we absolutely were having guys pulling charge out for winter, add in charge for
winter charge. It's not just
pulling it up. No, it's pulling it out for summer, adding it for winter. And what we were finding, a lot of times, was that these units just had defective headmaster valves, and they were just flooding during the summer. Flooding. It was just bad valves. Just a bad valve flooding. And all that excess refrigerant, that's stored refrigerant in the receiver that's not used in the summer normally, just flooding the system, shooting that pressure up.
It's amazing how many guys don't understand the headmaster. And dude, I was one of those guys, man. I didn't understand it when I first started, and I cut it out, but capped off one line, put a fan cycle control in, and like, man, and I think back what I did, I was like, man, I really did a disservice to my customer doing that.
You live and you learn. I mean, I remember feeling like that, but it's like, a guy was nice enough to draw me like a really good diagram, and he's like, all they're doing is making the condenser smaller. You know what I mean? Giving it less surface area and all that, when you don't need that, when your ambient temperature is high enough that the head pressure can maintain on its own, all that receiver is acting is like, here it is. It's just going to sit here. You know what I mean? But it's like someone had to sit there, go over it with me, and like point to the parts of the valve, like, hey, this is what's doing what. And, we're holding back. And then you either have your ORD valve, unless it's a three-way valve, and you're just passing hot gas to stave off that lazy liquid to rise up that head pressure artificially. But one of the things that I think is so cool about refrigeration, especially like how it takes different states of the refrigerant, takes advantage of where it is at that point in the system to positively affect the function of another system somewhere else. You know what I mean? I love that. Whether that's holdback valves or discharge gas feeding somewhere, or
even like even like a crossover valve on a rack system, creating an artificial load so that the low temp compressor doesn't go off on low pressure.
So it doesn't
satisfy. Just little things like that, just creating a false load with a pre-existing state of refrigerant doing something else. Like, that's amazing. It's so innovative. And that's just the norm. I don't know. Again, for guys who say, for a guy who's been doing racks for 20 years, that's nothing to him. But for me, who's only been seeing racks for almost 5 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still just continuously amazed at everything I see. I just have such a great appreciation for it.
Yeah, that's cool. So we're getting close on time. We got a couple quick questions I'll ask you guys. So, what's one piece of advice you'd give to somebody new or thinking about getting into the HVACR industry?
Are you sure you want to do this? I would say educate yourself before you get into it, because I think, I don't think there's anyone out here pretending that this is an easy job, but I think that there can be like, there's a tendency to like falsely glamorize things. I hope we don't do that. But like, there's a real point where like you're either going to do this or you're going to really regret the last few years. You know what I mean? So I would say really make sure you know what you're going to get into. But if you feel like you're ready to commit to something that, will almost act as its own hobby in your life if you let it, I think that it's absolutely worth the time But then I would say, look within yourself and say, am I willing to put forth the effort to get the results I want to see? Because if I'm not going to see those results. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say. Put in the time and you'll see the fruit of it. You get out of it what you put into it.
Nice, nice. Sean, anything from you?
Are you sure you want to do this?
Just one nugget, Sean.
No.
Are you sure?
So,
That's oracle, isn't it?
So, just genuinely,
Sorry.
try.
Yep.
Yeah.
Try. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of failure. Want it.
Mm-hmm.
Be the first guy on site. Be the last to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Once you learn the you know the order of the job, the culture of what you're doing, you know, make yourself an asset.
Yeah, fall in.
Make yourself the guy who the journeyman wants on that job. You know, they need a second banana on the job. They're like, hey, I want him. I want him. He's gonna show up. He's gonna grab my nitrogen tanks when I'm done fixing my leak. He's gonna have my recovery tank on the roof and the ladder set up by the time I finish sipping my coffee. You know what I mean? Just make them want it. That was one thing for me. Make them want to teach you. Make them want to teach you, because they don't. The guy we had to fight. We had to fight to learn. These guys did not want to teach us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Waste their time.
And not a waste of time. And understandably so, because there are a lot of guys who, you know, they're just passing through. This is just Taco Bell. You know what I mean? This is just a job. It's like, you know, like
I want to add though that that again, the place where we're at now, where we started in commercial refrigeration, we've been very blessed to have many, many, many people who are willing to pour into us and teach us. And man, I just can't, like, to have that is something I'll never take for granted. And I think one more thing I would add is try to, I don't care if it's the right way to twist a wire nut, try to learn one thing, or try to take one piece of knowledge and let it sink in with you. At least if you can walk away, you know, every day, at least saying, hey, I know one thing that's new, they start to add up. You know what I mean? I saw that comment that Advanced Refrigeration Podcast left. I love that, man. There's so much free information out there. Look up a video before you go to bed. Watch a 5-minute video on like an exploded TXV and learn how the springs work and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, my gosh, the knowledge is out there and it's being offered to you. There's so many resources, you know? So that's amazing advice.
So you guys work for a company. How many technicians work at the company you guys are at currently?
A lot. Now a lot. They've grown a lot in the past couple of years, in a good way. But over 50 now, right, Sean?
Wow.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say so.
Count. I feel like every time I turn around, there's more guys.
Are you both on call right now?
What's that?
Are you both on call right now?
No, I'm sitting in my truck because I don't want to wake up my kids.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly why I'm in my truck as well. Don't want to wake the kids.
I was gonna say last week was on call for me.
Gotcha. You guys do more than one tech on call at a time?
Yeah, we do. It's we do a primary who's on call 7 days, and then during the weekend there's a secondary who comes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to assist. And it's just the primary on call schedule. You just flip flop. So like you do a week, and then like a few weeks go by, then you do a weekend, then a week, then a weekend. In addition to those guys, you get an apprentice and 2 runners.
Gotcha. I was just curious. The company I came from, we had enough guys where there was always 2 guys on call at the same time, one on one side of the town, the other one on the other side of the town. And if we needed to help each other, we would. But this way, you know, it just wasn't as stressful to be the only one holding the bag.
I mean, absolutely. It's getting better, and I know they're trying. Our company is making efforts towards a second and a third shift as well. Not just on call guys, but guys who work consistently. There's not as many guys. Like the majority of guys work during the day, but you get a couple guys who are willing to go out at night or go out mid shift, and it really does. It helps knock some calls off the board. So that in conjunction with the on call is it's all right. It's manageable.
we had a couple of the old heads and a couple of the new people. We'd ask them, hey, would you be willing to take 2 days off during the week? I mean, some guys would love to take off Friday and Monday, or they would work the weekend and they would have like Monday, Tuesday off and stuff like that. And I came from a service company prior to that where it was just like every third weekend for the week you were the only one in the whole market. And then when I found this new company and I was there and we had multiple techs on call, it made work-life balance a lot better. And I think since COVID happened, the work ethic, and I won't say it's a negative thing. People are just looking at the mortality of life a lot closer. So I won't hold it against anyone. So people are like, people just don't want to work anymore. It's not necessarily the case. People are just valuing their time more. And I think companies are getting a lot smarter about scheduling and asking people if they want to work a little different shifts than the normal, Monday through Friday. And there's some people, a couple old heads that, their kids are already grown, graduated, retired and whatnot. And they don't mind working the weekends. They ain't got shit to do, So if a company is willing to try to work and have different shifts, it works out for everybody. Because some people want to work the weekends and they don't, they want 2 days off during the week so they can do appointments with their kids and things of that nature. So I think it would behoove a lot of people to look at the environment, because for every one senior tech that retires out, only 5 are coming in, or no. For every 5 are going out, only 1 or 2 are coming in. And I'll tell you, man, from when I went to school where everything was hands-on, before I left a year ago, we were getting technicians that their whole tech school, and I'm not saying every tech school is like that, but they were all YouTube trained. There was barely any hands-on is what we're finding out is a lot of these schools, the kids are just watching YouTube. Well, shit, for 12 grand, I can do that at home. I can save the money, but I
would say YouTube's for after school. That's that's after school education.
But a different story, another time. But
so that's awesome. Okay, it's been over an hour. I'm sure we could go here for another hour, but it's gonna get long-winded.
We'll have a follow-up.
We'll definitely have a follow-up with you guys. But go ahead and share where people can find the HVAC or DADS at. And I'll put that in the comments of the description of the podcast when it comes to the audio side, so people can just click on that and go follow you guys on TikTok and Instagram. But if you'll go ahead and share that for everybody so they know where to find you at.
Yep. So it's just going to be at HVACR _dads, and it's the same for TikTok and Instagram.
Perfect.
So let's go out there and blow these guys up on TikTok. There's a lot of good guys on TikTok.
It's the same for both?
We share an account.
Yes. Aww. It's very intimate.
Like say, who cheated? I'm just kidding.
It was me.
I just use the message and hope somebody's going to reply. I'm not sure which one it is.
Awesome, guys.
That TikTok community is blowing up with HVACR guys. Instagram is really big for HVAC and refrigeration as well, but TikTok's starting to really take on its own little side there as far as that kind of trade.
I picked up 20, Pat, in the last week, and funny enough, awesome enough, out of like the 20 I picked up, six were ladies.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm just like, yo, they're killing it out here.
Yeah.
And we have our circle of female technicians, but there's new ones just dropping. I'm like, yo, I'm just adding them. They're following me back, and I'm like, this is awesome. I absolutely love our community, man. Whether it's cooking equipment, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, I don't care. It's such a good trade. And I tell people that, AI is coming after white collar. It's coming after entertainment. It's coming after legal. It's coming after a lot. It's not coming after us, but don't be complacent, because at the end of the day, if we don't try to get blue collar going, the infrastructure suffering in this country, believe it or not, we might not be able to export this job, but people can be imported, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that the flags on our shoulders are American, taking care of our infrastructure, taking care of our communities.
Yeah, you're right. And the way things are going, communicating now, man, I mean, we're still blue collar, but we're getting little white tinges on them for how we're dealing with these, especially, like I say, communicating systems and anything smart, anything run off like a rover system, man. It's just more and more. It's like, wow, this, sometimes I look up, I'm like, I will, not to digress as I do, but, I'll go in and look at like a train system with a rover control. And it's like, dude, like how I'm doing IT work at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm doing
all
building
over
controls.
engineered.
Yeah, and well, I just sat through a train class, and it's like, I mean, the stuff they do is amazing, but it's like, if the 15th digit in the model number is D, that means you need to run not one, you need to run two communication wires. And God forbid they're not twisted braided wire, because you're going to regret your life when you pull that 400 feet and the resistance goes through the roof. Dude, I'm writing these notes so fast, and the guy's like, all right, switching. Like, like dude, it's just crazy. The industry's changing, and we, got new refrigerants out now. Not that, we're all looking at temperatures and stuff, but got to be aware of A2Ls, A3Ls. Like, there's so much out there, and we got to keep moving. Like you said, you can't get stagnant. You can't get complacent. And that's, ultimately a safety thing as well.
Absolutely. Pat, we'll wrap it up here, Pat.
I appreciate you guys coming on. You guys were phenomenal. We'll have to do this again. I look forward to
Absolutely.
look forward to seeing you guys' content grow, your following grow. But make sure you guys go check these out. Check these guys out at HVACR_dads on TikTok and Instagram. And I will put their information in the contacts on that podcast episode. But I appreciate you guys coming on, and have a good night, everybody.
Pat, Jason, thank you so
guys.
much.
See ya. If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.